The History of Susanna. There dwelt a man in Babylon called Joachim, and he took a wife, whose name was Susanna, the daughter of Chelcias, a very fair woman, and one that feared the Lord. Her parents also were righteous, and taught their daughter according to the law of Moses. Now Joachim was a very rich man, and had a fair garden joining unto his house, and to him resorted the Jews, because he was more honorable than all others. The same year were appointed two of the ancients of the people to be judges, such as the Lord spake of, that the wickedness came from Babylon from ancient judges, who seemed to govern the people. These kept much at Joachim's house, and all that had any suits in law came unto them. Now when the people departed away at noon, Susanna went into her husband's garden to walk, and the two elders saw her going in every day, and walking, so that their lust was inflamed toward her. And they perverted their own mind, and turned away their eyes, that they might not look unto heaven, nor remember just judgments. And albeit they both were wounded with her love, yet durst not one show another his grief, for they were ashamed to declare their lust, that they desired to have to do with her. Yet they watched diligently from day to day to see her. And the one said to the other, Let us now go home, for it is dinner time. So when they were gone out, they parted the one from the other, and turning back again, they came to the same place. And after that they asked one another the cause. They acknowledged their lust. Then appointed they a time, both together, that they might find her alone. And it fell out, as they watched, a fit time. She went in as before with two maids only, and she was desirous to watch herself in the garden, for it was hot. And there was nobody there save the two elders, that had hidden themselves and watched her. Then she said to her maids, Bring me oil and washing balls, and shut the garden doors, that I may wash. And they did as she bade them, and shut the garden doors, and went out themselves at private doors, to fetch the things that she had commanded them. But they saw not the elders, because they were hid. Now when the maids were gone forth, the two elders rose up, and ran unto her, saying, Behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us, and we are in love with thee. Therefore consent unto us, and lie with us. If thou wilt not, we will bear witness against thee, that a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maids from thee. Then Susanna sighed, and said, I am straitened on every side, for if I do this thing, it is death unto me, and if I do it not, I cannot escape your hands. It is better for me to fall into your hands, and not do it, than to sin in the sight of the Lord. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice, and with two elders cried out against her. Then ran the one, and opened the garden door. So when the servants of the house heard the cry in the garden, they rushed in at a private door, to see what was done unto her. But when the elders had declared their matter, the servants were greatly ashamed, for there was never such a report made of Susanna. And it came to pass that the next day, when the people were assembled to her husband Joachim, the two elders came also full of mischievous imagination against Susanna, to put her to death. And said before the people, Send forth Susanna, the daughter of Chelcias, Joachim's wife. And so they sent. So she came with her father and mother, her children, and all her kindred. Now Susanna was a very delicate woman, and beauteous to behold. And these wicked men commanded to uncover her face, for she was covered, that they might be filled with her beauty. Therefore her friends and all that saw her wept. Then the two elders stood up in the midst of the people, and laid their hands upon her head. And she, weeping, looked up toward heaven, for her heart trusted in the Lord. And the elders said, As we walked in the garden alone, this woman came in with two maids, and shut the garden doors, and sent the maids away. Then a young man, whose there was hid, came unto her, and lay with her. Then we that stood in a corner of the garden, seeing this wickedness, ran unto them. And when we saw them together, the man we could not hold, for he was stronger than we, and opened the door, and leaped out. But having taken this woman, we asked who the young man was. but she would not tell us. These things do we testify. Then the assembly believed them, as those that were the elders and judges of the people. So they condemned her to death. Then Susanna cried out with a loud voice, and said, O everlasting God, that knowest the secrets, and knowest all things before they be, thou knowest that they have borne false witness against me, and behold, I must die, whereas I never did such things as these men have maliciously invented against me. And the Lord heard her voice. Therefore, when she was led to be put to death, the Lord raised up the Holy Spirit of a young youth, whose name was Daniel, who cried with a loud voice, I am clear from the blood of this woman. Then all the people turned them toward him, and said, What mean these words that thou hast spoken? So he, standing in the midst of them, said, Are ye such fools, ye son of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth ye have condemned a daughter of Israel? Return again to the place of judgment, for they have borne false witness against her. Wherefore all the people turned again in haste, and the elders said unto him, Come, sit down among us, and show it to us, seeing God hath given thee the honor of an elder. Then said Daniel unto them, Put these two aside, one far from the other, and I will examine them. So when they were put asunder, one from another, he called one of them, and said unto him, O thou that art waxen old in wickedness, now thy sin which thou hast committed aforetime are come to light, for thou hast pronounced false judgment, and hast condemned the innocent, and hast let the guilty go free. Albeit the Lord saith, The innocent and righteous shall thou not slay. Now then, if thou hast seen her, tell me, under what tree sawest thou them companying together? And he said, Under the mastic tree. And Daniel said, Very well, thou hast lied against thine own head. For even now the angel of God hath received the sentence of God to cut thee in two. So he put him aside, and commanded to bring the other, and said unto him, O thou seed of Canaan, and not of Judah, beauty hath deceived thee, and lust hath perverted thine heart. Thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Israel, and they for fear companied with you. But the daughter of Judah would not abide your wickedness. Now therefore, tell me, under what tree didst thou take them companying together? And he said, Under a holm tree. Then Daniel said unto him, Well, thou hast also lied against thine own head, for the angel of God waiteth with the sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you. With that all the assembly cried out with a loud voice, and praised God, who saveth them that trust in him. And they arose against the two elders, for Daniel had convicted them of false witness by their own mouth. And according to the law of Moses they did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intended to do to their neighbor. And they put them to death. Thus the innocent blood was saved the same day. Therefore Chelcias and his wife praised God for their daughter Susanna, with Joachim her husband, and all their kindred, because there was no dishonesty found in her. From that day forth was Daniel had in great reputation in the sight of the people. The Book of Daniel, chapter 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave into his hand Joachim, king of Judah, and in part of the vessels of the house of God, and he brought them into the land of Sennaar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king told Ashpenaz, his chief eunuch, to bring in some of the captive children of Israel, and of the seed of the kingdom, and of the princes, young men in whom was no blemish, and beautiful in appearance, and skilled in all wisdom, and possessing knowledge, and acquainted with prudence, and who had ability to stand in the house before the king. And the king gave commandment to teach them the learning and language of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily portion from the king's table, and from the wine which he drank, and gave orders to nourish them 3 years, and that afterwards they should stand before the king. Now these were among them of the children of Judah, Daniel, and Ananias, and Azarias, and Misael. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names: to Daniel, Balthazar; and to Ananias, Shadrach; and to Mishael, Meshach; and to Azarias, Abednego. And Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's table, nor with the wine of his drink. And he entreated the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and compassion with the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who has appointed your meat and your drink, lest he see your countenances gloomy in comparison of the young men your equals. So shall ye endanger my head to the king. And Daniel said to Almasad, whom the chief of the eunuchs had appointed over Daniel, Ananias, Mishael, and Azarias, Prove now thy servants 10 days, and let them give us pulse, and let us eat, and let us drink water, and let our countenances be seen by thee, and the countenances of the children that eat at the king's table, and deal with thy servants according as thou shalt see. And he hearkened to them, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and stouter in flesh than the children that fed at the king's table. So Almasad took away their supper and the wine of their drink, and gave them pulse. And as for these 4 children, God gave them understanding and prudence and all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. And at the end of the days, after which the king had given orders to bring them in, then the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king spoke with them. And there were not found out of them all any like Daniel, and Ananias, and Mishael, and Azarias. And they stood before the king. And in every matter of wisdom and knowledge, wherein the king questioned them, he found them 10 times wiser than all the enchanters and sorcerers that were in all his kingdom. And Daniel continued till the 1st year of King Cyrus. The book of Daniel, chapter 2. In the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed a dream, and his spirit was amazed, and his sleep departed from him. And the king gave orders to call the enchanters, and the magicians, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, to declare the king his dreams. And they came and stood before the king. And the king said to them, I have dreamed, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. And the Chaldeans spoke to the king in the Syrian language, saying, O king, live forever. Do thou tell the dream to thy servants, and we will declare the interpretation. The king answered the Chaldeans, The thing has departed from me. If ye do not make known to me the dream and the interpretation, ye shall be destroyed, and your houses shall be spoiled. But if ye shall make known to me the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and presents and much honor. Only tell me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered the 2nd time and said, Let the king tell the dream to his servants, and we will declare the interpretation. And the king answered and said, I verily know that ye are trying to gain time, because ye see that the thing is gone from me. If then ye do not tell me the dream, I know that ye have concerted to utter before me a false and corrupt tale, until the time shall have passed. Tell me my dream, and I shall know that ye will also declare to me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king, and said, There is no man upon the earth who shall be able to make known the king's matter, forasmuch as no great king or ruler asks such a question of an enchanter, magician, or Chaldean. For the question which the king asks is difficult, and there is none else who shall answer it before the king, but the gods, whose dwelling is not of any flesh. Then the king, in rage and anger, commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went forth, and they began to slay the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to slay them. Then Daniel answered with counsel and prudence to Arioch and the captain of the royal guard, who was gone forth to kill the wise men of Babylon, saying, Chief magistrate of the king, wherefore has the peremptory command proceeded from the king? So Arioch made known the matter to Daniel, and Daniel entreated the king to give him more time. and that he might thus declare to the king the interpretation of it. So Daniel went into his house, and made known the matter to Ananias and Mishael and Azarias his friends. And they sought mercies from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, that Daniel and his friends might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven, and said, May the name of God be blessed from everlasting to everlasting, for wisdom and understanding are his, and he changes times and seasons. He appoints kings and removes them, giving wisdom to the wise, and prudence to them that have understanding. He reveals deep and secret matters, knowing what is in the darkness, and the light is with him. I give thanks to thee, and praise thee, O God of my fathers, for thou hast given me wisdom and power, and hast made known to me the things which we asked of thee, and thou hast made known to me the king's vision. And Daniel came to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon, but bring me in before the king, and I will declare the interpretation to the king. Then Arioch in haste brought in Daniel before the king, and said to him, I have found a man of the children of the captivity of Judah, who will declare the interpretation to the king. And the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name is Belteshazzar, Canst thou declare to me the dream which I saw, and the interpretation thereof? And Daniel answered before the king, and said, The mystery which the king asks the explanation of is not in the power of wise men, magicians, enchanters, or soothsayers to declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven revealing mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what things must come to pass in the last days. Thy dream, and then the visions of thy head upon thy bed are as follows. O king, thy thoughts upon thy bed arose as to what must come to pass hereafter. And he that reveals mysteries has made known to thee what must come to pass. Moreover, this mystery has not been revealed to me by reason of wisdom, which is in me beyond all others living, but for the sake of making known the interpretation to the king, that thou mightest know the thoughts of thine heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold an image. That image was great, and the appearance of it excellent, standing before thy face, and the form of it was terrible. It was an image, the head of which was fine gold, its hands and breasts and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of brass, its legs of iron, its feet part of iron and part of earthenware. Thou sawest until a stone was cut out of the mountains without hands, and it smote the image upon its feet of iron and earthenware, and utterly reduced them to powder. Then once for all, the earthenware, the iron, the brass, and silver, the gold, were ground to powder, and became as chaff from the summer threshing floor. And the violence of the wind carried them away, and no place was found for them. And the stone which had smitten the image became a great mountain, and filled all the earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given a powerful and strong and honorable kingdom. In every place where the children of men dwell, and he has given into thine hand the wild beasts of the field, and the birds of the sky, and the fish of the sea, and he made thee Lord of all. Thou art the head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and a third kingdom, which is the brass, which shall have dominion over all the earth. And a fourth kingdom, which shall be strong as iron beats to powder and subdues all things, so shall it beat to powder and subdue. And whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of earthenware and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, yet there shall be in it of the strength of iron. And thou sawest the iron mixed with earthenware, and whereas the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of earthenware, part of the kingdom shall be strong, and part of it shall be broken. Whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with earthenware, they shall be mingled with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave together, as the iron does not mix itself with earthenware. And in the days of those kings, the God of heaven shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and his kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall beat to pieces and grind to powder all other kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Whereas thou sawest that a stone was cut out of a mountain without hands, and it beat to pieces the earthenware, the iron, the brass, the silver, the gold, the great God has made known to the king what must happen hereafter. And the dream is true, and the interpretation thereof sure. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face, and worshipped Daniel, and gave orders to offer to him gifts and incense. And the king answered and said to Daniel, Of a truth, your God is a God of gods, Lord of kings, who reveals mysteries. For thou hast been able to reveal this mystery. And the king promoted Daniel, and gave him great and abundant gifts, and set him over the whole province of Babylon, and made him chief satrap over all the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel asked of the king, and appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel was in the king's palace. The book of Daniel, chapter 3. In his 18th year, Nebuchadnezzar the king made a golden image. Its height was 60 cubits, its breadth 6 cubits. And he set it up in the plain of Daria, in the province of Babylon. And he set forth to gather the governors and the captains, and the heads of provinces, chiefs, and princes, and those who were in authority, and all the rulers of districts, so to come the dedication of the image. So the heads of princes, the governors, the captains, the chiefs, the great princes, those who were in authority, and all the rulers of districts, were gathered to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image. Then a herald cried aloud, To you it is commanded, ye peoples, tribes, and languages, at what hour ye shall hear the sound of the trumpet, and pipe, and harp, and sackbut, and psaltery, and every kind of music, ye shall fall down and worship the golden image which King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whosoever shall not fall down and worship, in the same hour he shall be cast into the burning fiery furnace. And it came to pass, when the nations heard the sound of the trumpet, and pipe, and harp, and sackbut, and psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the nations, tribes, and languages fell down and worshipped the golden image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then came near certain Chaldeans, and accused the Jews to the king, saying, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree, that every man who shall hear the sound of the trumpet, the pipe, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and all kinds of music, and shall not fall down and worship the golden image, shall be cast into the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews who hast appointed over the affairs of province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who have not obeyed thy decree, O king. They serve not thy gods, and worship not the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in wrath and anger, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they were brought before the king. And Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that ye serve not my gods, and worship not the golden image which I have set up? Now then, if ye be ready, whensoever ye shall hear the sound of the trumpet, and pipe, and harp, and sackbut, and psaltery, and harmony, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the golden image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, in the same hour ye shall be cast into the burning fiery furnace. Who is the God that shall deliver you out of my hand? Then answered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, We have no need to answer thee concerning this matter, for our God whom we serve is in the heavens, able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will rescue us from thy hands, O king. But if not, be it known to thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with wrath, and the form of his countenance was changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he gave orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than usual, until it should burn to the uttermost. And he commanded mighty men to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then those men were bound with their coats, and caps, and hose, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. For as much as the king's word prevailed, and the furnace was made exceeding hot. Then these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace, and walked in the midst of the flame, singing praise to God, and blessing the Lord. Song of the 3 Children. Then Azarias stood up and prayed on this manner, and opening his mouth in the midst of the fire, said, Blessed art thou, O Lord God of our fathers. Thy name is worthy to be praised, and glorified for evermore. For thou art righteous in all the things that thou hast done to us. Yea, true are all thy works. Thy ways are right, and all thy judgments truth. And all the things that thou hast brought upon us, and upon the holy city of our fathers, even Jerusalem, thou hast executed true judgment. For according to truth and judgment didst thou bring all things upon us because of our sins. For we have sinned and committed iniquity, departing from thee. In all things have we trespassed, and not obeyed thy commandments, nor kept them, neither done as thou hast commanded us, that it might go well with us. Wherefore, all that thou hast brought upon us, everything that thou hast done to us, thou hast done in true judgment. And thou didst deliver us into the hands of the lawless enemies, most hateful forsakers of God, and to an unjust king, and the most wicked in all the world. And now we cannot open our mouths. We are become a shame and reproach to thy servants, and to them that reproach thee. Yet deliver us not up wholly, for thy name's sake, neither disannul thou thy covenant, and cause not thy mercy to depart from us, for thy beloved Abraham's sake, and for thy servant Isaac's sake, and for thy holy Israel's sake, to whom thou hast spoken and promised, that thou wouldest multiply their seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand that lieth upon the seashore. For we, O Lord, are become less than any nation, and be kept under this day in all the world, because of our sins. Neither is there at this time prince, or prophet, or leader, or burnt offering, or sacrifice, or oblation, or incense, or place to sacrifice before thee, and to find mercy. Nevertheless, in a contrite heart and an humble spirit, let us be accepted, like as in the burnt offerings of rams and bullocks, and like as in 10,000 of fat lambs, so let our sacrifice be in thy sight this day, and grant that we may be wholly go before thee, for they shall not be confounded that put their trust in thee. And now we follow thee with all our heart, we fear thee and seek thy face. Put us not to shame, but deal with us after thy loving kindness, and according to the multitude of thy mercies. Deliver us also according to thy marvelous works, and give glory to thy name, O Lord. And let all them that do thy servants hurt be ashamed, and let them be confounded in all their power and might, and let their strength be broken. And let them know that thou art Lord, the only God, and glorious over the whole world. And the king's servants that put them in cease not to make the oven hot with rosin, pitch, tow, and small wood, so that the flames streamed forth above the furnace 49 cubits. And it passed through, and burnt those Chaldeans it found about the furnace. But the angel of the Lord came down into the oven together with Azarias and his fellows, and smote the flame of the fire out of the oven. And it made the midst of the furnace as it had been a moist whistling wind, so that the fire touched them not at all, neither hurt nor troubled them. Then the 3, as out of one mouth, praised, glorified, and blessed God in the furnace, saying, Blessed art thou, O Lord God of our fathers, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. And blessed is thy glorious and holy name, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. Blessed art thou in the temple of thy holy glory, and to be praised and glorified above all forever. Blessed art thou that beholdest the depths, and sittest upon the cherubims, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. Blessed art thou on the glorious throne of thy kingdom, and to be praised and glorified above all forever. Blessed art thou in the firmament of heaven, and above all, to be praised and glorified forever. O all ye works of the Lord, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye heavens, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye angels of the Lord, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O all ye waters that be above the heaven, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O all ye powers of the Lord, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye sun and moon, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye stars of heaven, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O every shower and dew, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O all ye winds, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye fire and heat, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye nights and days, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye light and darkness, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt above all forever. O ye frost and heat, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye frost and snow, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye lightnings and clouds, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O let the earth bless the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye mountains and little hills, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O all ye things that grow on the earth, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye seas and rivers, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye fountains, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye whales and all that move in the waters, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O all ye fowls of the air, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O all ye beasts and cattle, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye children of men, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O Israel, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye priests of the Lord, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye servants of the Lord, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye spirits and souls of the righteous, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O ye holy and humble men of heart, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. O Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. For he hath delivered us from hell, and saved us from the hands of death, and delivered us out of the midst of the furnace and burning flame. Even out of the midst of the fire hath he delivered us. O give thanks unto the Lord, because he is gracious, for his mercy endureth forever. O all ye that worship the Lord, bless the God of gods, praise him, and give thanks, for his mercy endureth forever. Daniel chapter 3, verse 24. And Nebuchadnezzar heard them singing praises, and he wondered, and rose up in haste, and said to his nobles, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? And they said to the king, Yes, O king. And the king said, But I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and there has no harm happened to them, and the appearance of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar drew near to the door of the burning fiery furnace, and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, proceed forth and come hither. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth out of the midst of the fire. Then were assembled the satraps and captains and heads of provinces and royal princes, and they saw the men, and perceived that the fire had not had power against their bodies, and the hair of their head was not burnt, and their coats were not scorched, nor was the smell of fire upon them. And King Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants, because they trusted in him. And they have changed the king's word and delivered their bodies to be burnt, that they might not serve nor worship any god, except their own God. Wherefore I publish a decree, every people, tribe, or language, that shall speak reproachfully against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shall be destroyed, and their houses shall be plundered, because there is no other God who shall be able to deliver thus. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon, and advanced them, and gave them authority to rule over all the Jews who were in his kingdom. King Nebuchadnezzar to all nations, tribes, and tongues, who dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. It seemed good to me to declare to you the signs and wonders which the Most High has wrought with me. How great and mighty they are! His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his power to all generations. The Book of Daniel, Chapter 4. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was thriving in my house and prospering. I saw a vision, and it terrified me, and I was troubled on my bed, and the visions of my head troubled me. And I made a decree to bring in before me all the wise men of Babylon, that they might be made known to me the interpretation of the dream. So the enchanters, magicians, soothsayers, and Chaldeans came in, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known to me the interpretation thereof. Until Daniel came, whose name is Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, who has within him the Holy Spirit of God, to whom I said, O Belteshazzar, chief of the enchanters, of whom I know that the Holy Spirit of God is in thee, and no mystery is too hard for thee. Hear the vision of my dream which I had, and tell me the interpretation of it. I had a vision upon my bed, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height was great. The tree grew large and strong. Its height reached to the sky, and its extent to the extremity of the whole earth. Its leaves were fair, and its fruit abundant, and in it was meat for all. And under it the wild beasts of the field took shelter, and the birds of the sky lodged in the branches of it, and all the flesh was fed of it. I beheld in the night vision upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven, and cried aloud, and thus he said, Cut down the tree, and pluck off its branches, and shake off its leaves, and scatter its fruit. Let the wild beasts be removed from under it, and the birds from under its branches. Only leave the stump of its roots in the earth, and bind it with an iron and brass band, and it shall lie in the grass that is without, and in the dew of heaven, and its portion shall be with the wild beasts in the grass of the field. His heart shall be changed from that of man, and the heart of a wild beast shall be given to him, and 7 times shall pass over him. The matter is by the decree of the watcher, and the demand is a word of the holy ones, that the living may know that the Lord is the Most High over the kingdom of men, and he will give it to whomsoever he shall please, and will set up over it that which is set at naught of men. This is the vision which I, King Nebuchadnezzar, saw. And do thou, Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation, for none of the wise men of my kingdom are able to show me the interpretation of it. But thou, Daniel, art able, for the Holy Spirit of God is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name is Belteshazzar, was amazed about 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. And Belteshazzar answered and said, My Lord, let the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation of it to thine enemies. The tree which thou sawest, that grew large and strong, whose height reached to the sky, and its extent to all the earth, and whose leaves were flourishing, and its fruit abundant. It was meat for all. Under it, and the wild beasts that lodge, and the birds of the sky took shelter in its branches. Is thyself, O king, for thou art grown great and powerful, and thy greatness has increased and reached to heaven, and thy dominion to the ends of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and he said, strip the tree and destroy it, only leave the stump of its roots in the ground, and bind it with a band of iron and brass, and it shall lie in the grass that is without, and the dew of heaven, and its portion shall be with wild beasts, until 7 times have passed over it. This is the interpretation of it, O king, and it is a decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king. And they shall drive thee forth from men, and thy dwelling shall be with wild beasts, and they shall feed thee with the grass of an ox. And thou shalt have thy lodging under the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High is the Lord of the kingdom of men, and will give it to whom he shall please. And whereas they said, leave the stumps of the roots of the tree, thy kingdom abides sure to thee, from time that thou shalt know the power of the heavens. Therefore, O king, let my counsel please thee, and atone for thy sins by alms, and thine iniquities by compassion on the poor. It may be God will be long-suffering to thy trespasses. All these things came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. After a 12th, as he walked in his palace in Babylon, the king answered and said, is not this great Babylon, which I have built for a royal residence, by the might of my power, for the honor of my glory? While the word was yet in the king's mouth, there came a voice from heaven, saying, to thee, King Nebuchadnezzar, they say, the kingdom has departed from thee, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with thee wild beasts of the field, and they shall feed with thee the grass as an ox. And 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High is Lord of the kingdom of men, and he will give it to whomsoever he shall please. In the same hour the word was fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven forth from men, and he ate grass as an ox, and his body was bathed with the dew of heaven, until his hairs were grown like lions' hairs, and his nails as birds' claws. And at the end of the time I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes to heaven, and my reason returned to me. And I blessed the Most High, and praised him that lives forever, and gave him glory, for his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom lasts to all generations, and all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he does according to his will in the army of heaven, and among the inhabitants of the earth, and there is none who shall withstand his power, and say to him, what hast thou done? At the same time my reason returned to me, and I came to the honor of my kingdom, and my natural form returned to me, and my princes and my nobles sought me, and I was established in my kingdom, and more abundant majesty was added to me. Now therefore I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise, and greatly exalt and glorify the King of heaven, for all his works are true, and his paths are judgment, and all that walk in pride he is able to abase. The book of Daniel, chapter 5. Balthazar, the king, made a great supper for his 1,000 nobles, and there was wine before the 1,000. And Balthazar, drinking, gave orders as he tasted the wine, that they should bring the gold and silver vessels, which Nebuchadnezzar his father had brought forth from the temple in Jerusalem, that the king and his nobles and his mistresses and his concubines should drink out of them. So the gold and silver vessels were brought which Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles and his mistresses and his concubines drank out of them. They drank wine, and praised the God of gold, and of silver, and of brass, and of iron, and of wood, and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote in front of the lamp on the plaster of the wall of the king's house. And the king saw the knuckles of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance changed, and his thoughts troubled him. And the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one another. And the king cried aloud to bring in the magicians, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. And he said to the wise men of Babylon, Whosoever shall read this writing, and make known to me the interpretation, shall be clothed with scarlet, and there shall be a gold chain upon his neck, and he shall be the third ruler in my kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known the interpretation of the king. And King Balthazar was troubled, and his countenance changed upon him, and his nobles were troubled with him. Then the queen came in to the banquet, and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, and let not thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom, in whom is the Spirit of God. And in the days of thy father, watchfulness and understanding were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, made him chief of the enchanters, magicians, and Chaldeans, and soothsayers. For there is an excellent spirit in him, and sense and understanding are in him, interpreting dreams as he does, and answering hard questions, and solving difficulties. It is Daniel. And the king gave him the name Balthazar. Now, then, let him be called, and he shall tell thee the interpretation of the writing. And Daniel was brought in before the king. And the king said to Daniel, Art thou Daniel of the children of the captivity of Judah, which the king my father brought? I have heard concerning thee that the Spirit of God is in thee, and that watchfulness and understanding and excellent wisdom have been found in thee. And now the wise men, magicians, and soothsayers have come in before me to read the writing, and make known to me the interpretation, but they could not tell it to me. And I have heard concerning thee, that thou art able to make interpretations. Now then, if thou shalt be able to read the writing, and to make known to me the interpretation of it, thou shalt be clothed with purple, and there shall be a golden chain upon thy neck, and thou shalt be third ruler in my kingdom. And Daniel said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give the present of thine house to another. But I will read the writing, and will make known to thee the interpretation of it. O king, the Most High God gave to thy father Nebuchadnezzar a kingdom, and majesty, and honor, and glory. And by reason of the majesty which he gave to him, all nations, tribes, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would he slew, and whom he would he smote, and whom he would he exalted, and whom he would he abased. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was emboldened to act proudly, he was deposed from his royal throne, and his honor was taken from him. And he was driven forth from men, and his heart was given him after the nature of wild beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. And they fed him with grass as an ox, and his body was bathed with the dew of heaven, until he knew that the Most High God is Lord in the kingdom of men, and will give it to whomsoever he shall please. And thou, accordingly his son, O Balthazar, hast not humbled thine heart before God. Knowest thou not all this? And thou hast been exalted against the Lord God of heaven, and they have brought before thee the vessels of his house, and thou and thy nobles, and thy mistresses, and thy concubines, have drunk wine out of them. And thou hast praised the gods of gold, and of silver, and brass, and iron, and wood, and stone, which see not, and which hear not, and know not. And the God in whose hand are thy breath, and all thy ways hast thou not glorified. Therefore, from his presence has been sent forth the knuckle of a hand, and he has ordered this writing. And this is the ordered writing, Main, Tekel, Pharis. And this is the interpretation of the sentence, Main. God has measured thy kingdoms, and finished it. Tekel. It has been weighed in the balance, and found wanting. Pharis. Thy kingdom is divided, and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Balthazar commanded, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put a golden chain about his neck, and proclaimed concerning him that he was the third ruler in the kingdom. And in the same night was Balthazar the Chaldean king slain, and Darius the Mede succeeded to the kingdom, being 62 years old. The Book of Daniel, chapter 6. And it pleased Darius, and he set over the kingdom 120 satraps, to be in all his kingdom, and over them 3 governors, of whom one was Daniel, for the satraps to give account to them, that the king should not be troubled. And Daniel was over them, and there was an excellent spirit in him, and the king set him over all his kingdom. Then the governors and satraps sought to find occasion against Daniel, but they found against him no occasion, nor trespass, nor error, because he was faithful. And the governors said, We shall not find occasion against Daniel, except in the ordinances of his God. Then the governors and satraps stood by the king, and said to him, King Darius, live forever. All who preside over thy kingdom, captains and satraps, chiefs, and local governors, have taken counsel together to establish by a royal statute and to confirm a decree, that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now then, O king, establish the decree, and publish a writ, that the decree of the Persians and Medes be not changed. Then King Darius commanded the decree to be written. And when Daniel knew that the decree was ordered, he went into his house, and his windows were opened in his chambers toward Jerusalem. And 3 times in the day he knelt upon his knees, and prayed, and gave thanks before his God, as he used to do before. Then these men watched, and found Daniel praying and supplicating to his God. And they came and said to the king, O king, hast thou not made a decree, that whatsoever man shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, but of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? And the king said, The word is true, and the decree of the Medes and Persians shall not pass. Then they answered and said before the king, Daniel, of the children of the captivity of Judea, has not submitted to thy decree, and 3 times in the day he makes his request to his God. Then the king, when he heard the saying, was much grieved for Daniel, and he greatly exerted himself for Daniel to deliver him, and he exerted himself till evening to deliver him. Then those men said to the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is that we must not change any decree or statute which the king shall make. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel, and cast him into the den of lions. But the king said to Daniel, Thy God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. And they brought a stone, and put it on the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his ring, and with the ring of his nobles, that the case might not be altered with regard to Daniel. And the king departed to his house, and lay down fasting, and they brought him no food, and his sleep departed from him. But God shut the mouth of the lions, and they did not molest Daniel. Then the king arose very early in the morning, and came in haste to the den of lions. And he drew near to the den. He cried with a loud voice, Daniel, servant of the living God, has thy God, whom thou servest continually, been able to deliver thee from the lion's mouth? And Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God has sent his angels, and stopped the lions' mouths, and they have not hurt me, for uprightness was found in me before him. And moreover, before thee, O king, I have committed no trespass. Then the king was very glad for him, and he commanded to bring Daniel out of the den. So Daniel was brought out of the den, and there was found no hurt upon him, because he believed in his God. And the king commanded, and they brought the men that had accused Daniel, and they were cast into the den of lions, and they, and their children, and their wives. And they reached not the bottom of the den, before the lions had the mastery of them, and utterly broke to pieces all their bones. Then King Darius wrote to all nations, tribes, and languages, who dwell in all the earth, saying, Peace be multiplied to you. This decree has set forth by me in every dominion of my kingdom, that men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living and eternal God, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed, and his dominion is forever. He whelps and he delivers. He works signs and wonders in the heaven and on earth. Who has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions? And Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius, and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. The Book of Daniel, chapter 7. In the first year of Balthazar, king of the Chaldeans, Daniel had a dream, and visions of his head upon his bed. And he wrote his dream. I, Daniel, beheld, and lo, the four winds of heaven blew violently upon the great sea. And there came up four great beasts out of the sea, differing from one another. The first was a lioness, and her wings as an eagle's. I beheld until her wings were plucked, and she was lifted off from the earth. And she stood on human feet, and a man's heart was given to her. And behold, a second beast, like a bear, and it supported itself on one side, and there were 3 ribs in its mouth, between its teeth. And thus they said to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this one I looked, and behold another beast as a leopard, and it had 4 wings of a bird upon it, and the wild beast had 4 heads, and power given to it. After this one I looked, and behold a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and exceedingly strong, and its teeth were of iron, devouring and crushing to atoms. And it trampled the remainder with its feet, and it was altogether different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I noticed his horns, and behold, another little horn came up in the midst of them, and before it 3 of the former horns were rooted out. And behold, there were eyes as the eyes of a man in this horn, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld until the thrones were set, and the Ancient of Days sat. And his raiment was white as snow, and the hair of his head as pure wool. His throne was a flame of fire, and his wheels burning fire. A stream of fire rushed forth before him. Thousands ministered to him, and 10,000s of myriads attended upon him. The judgment sat, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which that horn spoke, until the wild beast was slain and destroyed, and his body given to be burnt with fire. And the dominion of the rest of the wild beasts was taken away, but a prolonging of life was given them for certain times. I beheld in the night vision, and lo, one coming with the clouds of heaven as the Son of Man, and he came on to the Ancient of Days, and was brought near to him. And to him was given the dominion, and the honor, and the kingdom, and all nations, tribes, and languages shall serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit and my body trembled, and the visions of my head troubled me. And I drew near to one of them that stood by, and I sought to learn of him the truth of all these things. And he told me the truth, and made known to me the interpretation of the things. These 4 beasts are 4 kingdoms that shall rise up on the earth, which shall be taken away, and the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess it for ever and ever. Then I inquired carefully concerning the 4th beast, for it differed from every other beast, exceeding dreadful. Its teeth were of iron, and its claws of brass, devouring and utterly breaking to pieces, and it trampled the remainder with its feet. And concerning its 10 horns that were in its head, and the other that came up, and rooted up some of the former, which had eyes and a mouth speaking great things. And his look was bolder than the rest. I beheld, and that horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and he gave judgment to the saints of the Most High. And the time came on, and the saints possessed the kingdom. And he said, The 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall excel all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and trample and destroy it. And his 10 horns are 10 kings that shall arise, and after them shall arise another, who shall exceed all the former ones in wickedness, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change times and law, and power shall be given into his hand for a time and times and half a time. And the judgment has sat, and they shall remove his dominion to abolish it, and to destroy it utterly. And the kingdom and the power and the greatness of the kings that are under the whole heaven were given to the saints of the Most High. And his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all the powers shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly troubled me, and my countenance was changed. But I kept the matter in my heart. The Book of Daniel, chapter 8. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Balthasar, a vision appeared to me, even to me Daniel, after that which appeared to me at the first. And I was in Susa the palace, which is in the land of Elam, and I was on the bank of Ubal. And I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, a ram standing in the front of the Ubal, and he had high horns, and one was higher than the other, and the high one came up last. And I saw the ram butting westward, and northward, and southward, and no beast could stand before him, and there was none that could deliver out of his hand. And he did according to his will, and became great. And I was considering, and behold, a he-goat came from the southwest, on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the earth, and the goat had a horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had the horns, which I had seen standing in front of the Ubal, and he ran at him with the violence of his strength. And I saw him coming up close to the ram, and he was furiously enraged against him, and he smote the ram, and broke both his horns, and there was no strength in the ram to stand before him. And he cast him on the ground, and trampled on him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. And the he-goat grew exceedingly great, and when he was strong, his great horn was broken, and 4 other horns rose up in its place toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth one strong horn, and it grew very great toward the south, and toward the host, and it magnified itself to the host of heaven. And there fell to the earth some of the host of heaven and of the stars, and they trampled on them. And this shall be until the chief captain shall have delivered the captivity. And by reason of him the sacrifice was disturbed, and he proposed, and he prospered. And the holy place shall be made desolate. And a sin offering was given for the sacrifice, and righteousness was cast down to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. And I heard one saint speaking, and a saint said to a certain one speaking, How long shall the vision continue, even the removal of the sacrifice, and bringing in of the sin of desolation? How long shall the sanctuary and host be trampled? And he said to him, Evening and morning there shall be 2,300 days, and then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. And it came to pass, as I, even I Daniel, saw the vision, and sought to understand it, that behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man, and I heard the voice of a man between the banks of Ubal. And he called and said, Gabriel, cause that man to understand the vision. And he came and stood near where I stood, and where I came I was struck with awe, and fell upon my face. But he said to me, Understand, son of man, for yet the visions is for an appointed time. And while he spoke with me, I fell upon my face to the earth, and he touched me, and set me on my feet. And he said, Behold, I make thee know the things that shall come to pass at the end of the wrath, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. The ram which thou sawest, that had the horns, is the king of the Medes and Persians. The he-goat is the king of the Greeks, and the great horn which was between his eyes, he is the first king. And as for the one that was broken, in whose place there stood up 4 horns, 4 kings shall rise out of his nation, but not in their own strength. And at the latter time of their kingdom, when their sins are coming to the full, there shall arise a king, bold in countenance, and understanding riddles, and his power shall be great, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and prosper, and practice, and shall destroy mighty men, and the holy people, and the yoke of his chains shall prosper. There is craft in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by craft shall destroy many. And he shall stand up for the destruction of many, and shall crush them as eggs in his hand. And the vision of the evening and morning that was mentioned is true. And do thou seal the vision, for it is for many days. And I, Daniel, fell asleep and was sick. Then I arose and did the king's business, and I wondered at the vision, and there was none that understood it. The Book of Daniel, chapter 9. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, who reigned over kingdom of the Chaldeans, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years which was the word of the Lord to the prophet Jeremiah, even 70 years for the accomplishment of the desolation of Jerusalem. And I set my face toward the Lord God, to seek him diligently by prayer and supplications, with fasting and sackcloth. And I prayed to the Lord my God, and confessed, and said, O Lord, the great and wonderful God, keeping thy covenant and thy mercy to them that love thee, and to them that keep thy commandments. We have sinned, and we have done iniquity. We have transgressed, and we have departed and turned aside from thy commandments, and from thy judgments. And we have not hearkened to thy servants, the prophets, who spoke in thy name to our kings, and to our princes, and to our fathers, and to all the people of the land. To thee, O Lord, belongs righteousness, and to us confusion of face, as this day. To the men of Judah, and to the dwellers in Jerusalem, and to all Israel, to them that are near, and to them that are far off in all the earth, wherever thou hast scattered them, for the sin which they committed. In thee, O Lord, is our righteousness, and to us belongs confusion of face, and to our kings, and to our princes, and to our fathers, forasmuch as we have sinned. To thee, the Lord our God, belong compassions and forgivenesses, whereas we have departed from thee. Neither have we hearkened to the voice of the Lord our God, to walk in his laws, which he set before us by the hands of his servants the prophets. Moreover, all Israel have transgressed thy law, and have refused to hearken to thy voice. So the curse has come upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. And he has confirmed his words, which he spoke against us, and against our judges who judged us, by bringing upon us great evils, such as have not happened under the whole heaven, according to what has happened in Jerusalem. As it is written in the law of Moses, all these evils have come upon us, yet we have not besought the Lord our God, that we might turn away from our iniquities, and have understanding in all thy truth. The Lord also has watched, and brought the evils upon us, for the Lord our God is righteous in all his work which he has executed. But we have not hearkened to his voice. And now, O Lord our God, who broughtest thy people out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand, and madest to thyself a name, as at this day, we have sinned, we have transgressed. O Lord, thy mercy is over all. Let, I pray thee, thy wrath turn away, and thine anger from the city Jerusalem, even thy holy mountain, for we have sinned, and because of our iniquities, and those of our fathers, Jerusalem and thy people are become a reproach among all that are round about us. And now, O Lord our God, hearken to the prayer of thy servant, and his supplications, and cause thy face to shine on the desolate sanctuary, for thine own sake, O Lord. Incline thine ear, O my God, and hear. Open thine eyes, and behold our desolation, and that is of thy city, on which thy name is called. For we do not bring our pitiful case before thee on the ground of our righteousness, but on the ground of thy manifold compassions, O Lord. Hearken, O Lord, be propitious, O Lord. Attend, O Lord, delay not, O my God, for thine own sake. For thy name is called upon thy city and upon thy people. And while I was yet speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of my people Israel, and bringing my pitiful case before the Lord my God concerning the holy mountain, yea, while I was yet speaking in prayer, behold, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, came flying, and he touched me round about the hour of the evening sacrifice. And he instructed me, and spoke with me, and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to impart to thee understanding. At the beginning of thy supplication the word came forth, and I am come to tell thee, for thou art a man much beloved. Therefore consider the matter, understand the vision. 70 weeks have been determined upon thy people, and upon the holy city, for sin to be ended, and to seal up transgressions, and to blot out the iniquities, and to make atonement for iniquities, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal the vision of the prophet, and to anoint the most holy. And thou shalt know and understand that from the going forth of the command for the answer and for the building of Jerusalem until Christ, the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks, and then the time shall return, and the street shall be built, and the wall, and the times shall be exhausted. And after the 62 weeks, the anointed one shall be destroyed, and there is no judgment in him. And he shall destroy the city and the sanctuary with the prince that is coming. And they shall be cut off with a flood. And to the end of the war, which is rapidly completed, he shall appoint the city to desolations. And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many, and in the midst of week my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away. And on the temple shall be the abomination of desolations, and at the end of the time an end shall be put to this desolation. The Book of Daniel, chapter 10. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of the Persians, a thing was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. And the thing was true, and great an understanding in the vision was given to him. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, and no flesh or wine entered into my mouth, neither did I anoint myself with oil, until 3 full weeks were accomplished. On the 24th day of the 1st month, I was near the great river, which is Tigris Edical, and I lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, and his loins were girt with gold of Ophaz, and his body was as Tharsis, and his face was as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his legs as the appearance of shining brass, and the voice of his words as the voice of a multitude. And I, Daniel, only saw the vision, and the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great amazement fell upon them, and they fled in fear. So I was left alone, and saw this great vision, and there was no strength left in me. And my glory was turned into corruption, and I retained no strength. Yet I heard the voice of his words. And when I heard him, I was pricked in the heart, and I fell with my face to the earth. And behold, a hand touched me, and it raised me on my knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words which I speak to thee, and stand upright, for I am now sent to thee. And when he had spoken to me this word, I stood trembling. And he said to me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to afflict thyself before the Lord thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come because of thy words. But the prince of the kingdom of the Persians withstood me 21 days, and behold, Michael, one of the princes, came to help me. And I left him there with the chief of the kingdom of the Persians. And I have come to inform thee of all that shall befall thy people in the last days. For the vision is yet for many days. And when he had spoken with me according to these words, I turned my face to the ground, and was pricked in the heart. And behold, as it were, the likeness of a son of man touched my lips. And I opened my mouth and spoke, and said to him that stood before me, O my Lord, at the sight of thee my bowels were turned within me, and I had no strength. And how shall thy servant be able, O my Lord, to speak with this my Lord? And as for me, from henceforth strength will not remain in me, and there is no breath left in me. And there touched me again, as it were the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me, and said to me, Fear not, man greatly beloved, peace be to thee. Quit thyself like a man, and be strong. And when he had spoken with me, I received strength, and said, Let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. And he said, Knowest thou wherefore I am come to thee? And now I will return to fight with the prince of the Persians. and I was going in, and the prince of the Greeks came. But I will tell thee that which is ordained in the scripture of truth, and there is no one that holds with me in these matters but Michael your prince. The Book of Daniel, chapter 11. And I, in the first year of Cyrus, stood to strengthen and confirm him. And now I will tell thee the truth. Behold, there shall yet rise up 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be very far richer than all. And after that he is master of his wealth, and he shall rise up against all the kingdoms of the Greeks. And there shall rise up a mighty king, and he shall be lord of a great empire, and shall do according to his will. And when his kingdom shall stand up, it shall be broken, and shall be divided to the 4 winds of the heaven. But not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled over. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, and given to others beside these. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of their princes shall prevail against him, and shall obtain a great dominion. And after his years they shall associate, and the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north, to make agreements with them. But she shall not retain power of arm, neither shall his seed stand, and she shall be delivered up, and they that brought her, and the maiden, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of the flower of her root there shall arise one on his place, and shall come against the host, and shall enter into the strongholds of the king of the north, and shall fight against them, and prevail. Yea, he shall carry with a body of captives into Egypt their gods with the molten images, and all their precious vessels of silver and gold, and he shall last longer than the king of the north. And he shall enter into the kingdom of the king of the south, and shall return to his own land. And his sons shall gather a multitude among many, and one shall certainly come, and overflow, and pass through, and he shall rest, and collect his strength. And the king of the south shall be greatly enraged, and shall come forth, and shall war with the king of the north. And he shall raise a great multitude, but the multitude shall be delivered into his hand. And he shall take the multitude, and his heart shall be exalted, and he shall cast down many thousands, but he shall not prevail. For the king of the north shall return, and bring a multitude greater than the former, and at the end of the times of years an invading army shall come with a great force, and with much substance. And in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south, and the children of the spoilers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, and they shall fail. And the king of the north shall come in, and cast up a mound, and take strong cities, and the arms of the king of the south shall withstand. And his chosen ones shall rise up, and there shall be no strength to stand, and he that comes in against him shall do according to his will, and there is no one to stand before him. And he shall stand in the land of beauty, and it shall be consumed by his hand. And he shall set his face to come in with force of his whole kingdom, and shall cause everything to prosper with him. And he shall give to the daughter of woman to corrupt her, but she shall not continue, neither be on his side. And he shall turn his face to the inlands, and shall take many, and cause princes to cease from their reproach. Nevertheless, his own reproach shall return to him. Then he shall turn back his face to the strength of his own land, but he shall become weak, and fall, and not be found. And there shall rise out of his root one that shall cause a plant of the kingdom to pass over his face, earning kingly glory, and yet in those days shall he be broken, yet not openly nor in war. One shall stand on his place, who has been set at naught, and they have not put upon him the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in prosperously, and obtain the kingdom by deceitful ways. And the arms of him that overflows shall be washed away as with a flood from before him, and shall be broken, and so shall be the head of the covenant. And because of the leagues made with him, he shall work deceit, and he shall come up and overpower them with a small nation, and he shall enter in with prosperity, and that into fertile districts, and he shall do what his fathers and his fathers' fathers have not done. He shall scatter among them plunder, and spoils, and wealth, and he shall devise plans against Egypt, even for a time. And his strength and his heart shall be stirred up against the kings of the south, with a great force, and the king of the south shall engage in war with a great and very strong force. But his forces shall not stand, for they shall devise plans against him. And they shall eat his provisions, and shall crush him. And he shall carry away armies as with a flood, and many shall fall down slain. As for both kings, the hearts are set upon mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. For yet the end is for a fixed time. And he shall return to his land with much substance, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall perform great deeds, and return to his own land. And at the set time he shall return, and shall come into the south, but the last expectation shall not be as the first. For the Scythians, issuing forth, shall come against him, and he shall be brought low, and shall return, and shall be incensed against the holy covenant, and he shall do thus, and shall return, and have intelligence with them that have forsaken the holy covenant. And seeds shall spring up out of him, and they shall profane the sanctuary of strength, and they shall remove the perpetual sacrifice, and make the abomination desolate. And the transgressors shall bring about a covenant by deceitful ways, but a people knowing their God shall prevail, and do valiantly. And the intelligent of the people shall understand much, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, and by captivity, and by spoil of many days. And when they are weak, they shall be helped with a little help. But many shall attach themselves to them with treachery. And some of them that understand shall fall, to try them as with fire, and to test them, that they might be manifested at the time of the end, for the matter is yet for a set time. And he shall do according to his will, and the king shall exalt and magnify himself against every god, and shall speak great swelling words, and shall prosper until the indignation shall be accomplished. For it is coming to an end. And he shall not regard any gods of his fathers, nor the desire of women, neither shall he regard any deity, for he shall magnify himself above all. And he shall honor the gods of the forces on his place, and a god whom his fathers knew not, he shall honor with gold and silver and precious stones, and desirable things. And he shall do thus in the strong places of refuge with a strange god, and shall increase his glory, and he shall subject many to them, and shall distribute the land in gifts. And at the end of the time he shall conflict with the king of the south, and the king of the north shall come against him with chariots, and with horsemen, and with many ships, and they shall enter into the land, and he shall break in pieces, and pass on, and he shall enter into the land of beauty, and many shall fail, but these shall escape out of the hand, Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. And he shall stretch forth his hand over the land, and the land of Egypt shall not escape, and he shall have the mastery over the secret treasures of gold and silver, and over all desirable possessions of Egypt, and of the Libyans and Ethiopians in their strongholds. But rumors and anxieties out of the east, and from the north shall trouble him, and he shall come with great wrath to destroy many, and he shall pitch the tabernacle of his palace between the seas and the holy mountain of beauty. But he shall come to his portion, and there is none to deliver him. The book of Daniel, chapter 12. And at that time Michael the great prince shall stand up, that stands over the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of tribulation, such tribulation as has not been from the time that there was a nation on earth until that time. At that time thy people shall be delivered, even every one that is written in the book, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to reproach and everlasting shame. And the wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and some of the many righteous as the stars forever and ever. And thou, Daniel, close the words and the seal of the book to the time of the end, until many are taught, and knowledge is increased. And I, Daniel, saw, and behold, two others stood, one on one side of the bank of the river, and the other on the other side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, who was over the water of the river, When will be the end of the wonders which thou hast mentioned? And I heard the man clothed in linen, who was over the water of the river. And he lifted up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and sware by him that lives forever, that it should be for a time of times and half a time. When the dispersion is ended, they shall know all these things. And I heard, but I understood not, and said, O Lord, what will be the end of these things? And he said, Go, Daniel, for the words are closed and sealed up to the time of the end. Many must be tested, and thoroughly whitened, and tried with fire, and sanctified. But the transgressors shall transgress, and none of the transgressors shall understand. But the wise shall understand. And from the time of the removal of the perpetual sacrifice, when the abomination of desolation shall be set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that awaits, and comes to the 1,335 days. But go thou and rest, for there are yet days and seasons to the fulfillment of the end, and thou shalt stand in thy lot at the end of the days. Bel and the Dragon. And King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. And Daniel conversed with the king, and was honored above all his friends. Now the Babylonians had an idol, called Bel, and there were spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour, and 40 sheep, and 6 vessels of wine. And the king worshipped it, and went daily to adore it. But Daniel worshipped his own God. And the king said to him, Why dost thou not worship Bel? Who answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living God, who hath created the heaven and the earth, and hath sovereignty over all flesh. Then said the king unto him, Thinkest thou not that Bel is a living God? Seest thou not how much he eateth and drinketh every day? Then Daniel smiled, and said, O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay within, and brass without, and did never eat or drink anything. So the king was wroth, and called for his priests, and said unto them, If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die. But if ye can certify me that Bel devoureth them, then Daniel shall die, for he hath spoken blasphemy against Bel. And Daniel said unto the king, Let it be according to thy word. Now the priests of Bel were 70, beside their wives and children. And the king went with Daniel into the temple of Bel. So Bel's priests said, Lo, we go out. But thou, O king, set on the meat, and make ready the wine, and shut the door fast, and seal it with thine own signet. And tomorrow, when thou comest in, if thou findest not that Bel hath eaten up all, we will suffer death, or else Daniel, that speaketh falsely against us. And they little regarded it, for under the table they had made a privy entrance, whereby they entered in continually, and consumed those things. So when they were gone forth, the king set meats before Bel. Now Daniel had commanded his servants to bring ashes, and those they strewed throughout all the temple in the presence of the king alone. Then went they out, and shut the door, and sealed it with the king's signet, and so departed. Now in the night came the priests with their wives and children, and they were wont to do, and did eat and drink up all. In the morning betime the king arose, and Daniel with him. And the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, Yea, O king, they be whole. And as soon as he had opened the door, the king looked upon the table, and cried with a loud voice, Great art thou, O Bel, and with thee is no deceit at all. Then laughed Daniel, and held the king that he should not go in, and said, Behold now the pavement, and mark well, whose footsteps are these? And the king said, I see the footsteps of men, women, and children. And then the king was angry, and took the priests with their wives and children, who showed with him private doors, where they came in, and consumed such things as were upon the table. Therefore the king slew them, and delivered Bel into Daniel's power, who destroyed him in his temple. And in that same place there was a great dragon, which they of Babylon worshipped. And the king said unto Daniel, Wilt thou also say that this is of brass? Lo, he liveth, he eateth and drinketh. Thou canst not say that he is no living God. Therefore worship him. Then said Daniel unto the king, I will worship the Lord my God, for he is the living God. But give me, O king, and I shall slay this dragon without sword or staff. The king said, I will give thee leave. Then Daniel took pitch and fat and hair, and did seethe them together, and made lumps thereof. This he put in the dragon's mouth, and so the dragon burst in sunder. And Daniel said, Lo, these are gods ye worship. When they of Babylon heard that, they took great indignation, and conspired against the king, saying, The king is become a Jew, and hath destroyed Bel, and he hath slain the dragon, and put the priests to death. So they came to the king, and said, Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house. Now when the king saw that they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them, who cast him into the lions' den, where he was 6 days. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses and 2 sheep, which they were not given to them to the intent that they might devour Daniel. Now there was a Jewry, a prophet, called Habakkuk, who had made a pottage, and had broken bread in a bowl, and was going into the field for to bring it to the reapers. But the angel of the Lord said to Habakkuk, Go, carry the dinner that thou hast into Babylon unto Daniel, who is in the lion's den. And Habakkuk said, Lord, I never saw Babylon, neither do I know where the lion's den is. Then the angel of the Lord took him by the crown, and carried him by the hair of his head, and through the vehemency of his spirit set him in Babylon over the den. And Habakkuk cried, saying, O Daniel, Daniel, take the dinner which God hath sent thee. And Daniel said, Thou hast remembered me, O God, neither hast thou forsaken them that seek thee and love thee. So Daniel arose and did eat, and the angel of the Lord set Habakkuk in his own place again immediately. Upon the 7th day the king went to bewail Daniel, and when he came to the den, he looked in, and behold, Daniel was sitting. Then cried the king with a loud voice, saying, Great art thou, O Lord God of Daniel, and there is none other beside thee. And he drew him out, and cast those that were in the cause of his destruction into the den, and they were devoured in a moment before his face.